I eat Negroes. That was the first words I heard come out of his mouth. You might want to stick around for this one. This is the story of Big Ugly. The biggest, baddest, blackest MFer I ever met in prison. And he wound up being my bunkmate. And I was nervous. First things first. Most of the things you hear me say about Big Ugly are self-proclamations that he made about himself. I'm not the one who called the dude the biggest, baddest, blackest, ugliest MFer. That's what he referred to himself as, amongst other things, as you'll hear in this video. I was in Allen Correctional Center when I first met Big Ugly. Here's the story. So, as you know, in prisons, people get shifted from one prison to the next. And the dormitory that I was in, people had got shifted out that morning, right? So you knew people were going to be replacing the people who got shipped out that morning, that evening. That's the way it works. That's called transfer day inside the prison system. Now, the bunk that's directly next to me is open because the person who was sleeping there, who I don't remember, got transferred out. So now I know another person's getting transferred in. In this particular dorm, there was like about 9 or 10 beds that were now open. So we knew we were going to get about 9 or 10 new inmates to come inside the dormitory. Well, all day, this is when I'm first getting to prison too. This is my first term in prison. I'm like 20 years old at this time. And I'm thinking to myself, man, I really hope that the person that they put in the bunk next to me is somebody that I could be cool with. He's not a sexual deviant. He's not a booty bandit. And he ain't about all that trouble. Somebody who I can be cool with, who, that'll be okay for me to sleep next to. That's my hope. That's anybody's hope who got common sense. Little did I know that the person that would sleep next to me was a New Orleans legend. That's right, from Holly Grove. He loved to tell people he was from Holly Grove too. I bet you, if you ask Lil Wayne, he probably knows Big Ugly. So the evening time comes and it's time for the new inmates to come in. And we know new inmates are coming in. Everybody's doing their regular thing, playing spades, dominoes, taking craps on the toilet, taking showers. Well, eventually the new inmates do come in. King, king. You hear the cell, the open dormitory gate open up, which is bars, because the dorm is blocked in bars. And all of a sudden you see these dudes coming in, the regular rowdy motley crew bunch that usually walks inside a prison dormitory, a mixture of all the same old that you come to know and recognize. But all of a sudden, behind everybody else has their lockers, because you get 2 lockers inside prison. One that goes on the foot of your bed, and the other that usually goes on the head of your bed or the side of your bed. So you get 2 foot lockers, kind of like military foot lockers, same type of thing. Everybody's pulling lockers in carts. So, the lockers are heavy because the lockers also have all their property. Keep in mind, not all these people are coming from parish prisons. A lot of them are coming from state prisons, and they've already been locked up for 20 plus years. So they have, personal property accumulated, and that's what's in their foot lockers. So the foot lockers also have the weight of the metal plus whatever's inside the lockers. Well, the regular group of dudes come walking in, but all of a sudden I look and I see this one dude walk in, and my eyes just got big. I think everybody who never seen him before, eyes got big. He was that type of person. He was about 6'5", 6'6", and he probably weighed close to 300 pounds. And when he walked, you felt the earth and the concrete and the steel bars move around you because he stepped his feet really heavy. And the first thing I did when I seen him, I said, whoa, look at this dude. And he had a bright pink pick, like a pick that you use to pick out afros and like that. That's what he had in his hair. And so he's got this bright pink pick, and he's got this little small face, and he's got his mouth like this. And I'm looking, I'm like, whoa. My first thought was, please, I hope that dude is not the one who's sleeping next to me. He's literally got, everybody else was pulling their lockers on carts. He got both of his foot lockers on his shoulders, holding them with each hand like this. He got one on each hand, and he's holding his foot lockers, and he's stepping. And I'm looking, and I'm like, this dude got his lockers on his shoulders, both of them, on the left shoulder and the right shoulder. And he walks up, and I'm thinking, please, God, please, don't let that dude be my bunkmate. Sure enough, he walks right next to the bunk next to mine and places his stuff. The first words that come out his mouth was, well, after he set his stuff down, I eat Negroes, except he didn't use the word Negroes. He used the hard N word the way he wanted to say it, but he's a black dude, so I guess he could say whatever he wants, right? Anyway, wasn't nobody gonna tell him nothing, no matter who he was. So I'm looking at this dude, and I'm like, man, I'm really somewhat intimidated because this guy looks scary, and the first words out his mouth was what I told you. So he's sitting there, and after he says he's gonna eat Negroes, he says, who's the dorm rep up in here? And I remember the dorm rep at the time, and the dorm rep's looking, and he didn't even get a chance to speak up. This dude said, I'm the dorm rep now. Anybody got a problem with that? And everybody's looking like, nah, dog, ain't nobody got a problem with that. Not even the baddest gangsters in that dorm at the time spoke up and said they had a problem with it. He instantly became the dorm rep seconds after he walked into the dormitory. The next thing I remember, he was sitting on his bunk. And he's just sitting there, and he's kind of moving like this. And I'm not even at my bunk at the time. I think I'm in the front of the dorm watching him. Everybody's watching him. Now, when he walked in, there was some dudes who dapped him up who knew him. What's up, Big Moan? That's what they call him, Big Moan. Now you're about to find out why Big Moan, Big Ugly, and his other name I'm going to tell you about all fits him exactly to description. So he's sitting at his bunk, and he's rocking like this. And he's looking around, and all of a sudden, he starts going, and I'm looking, I'm like, whoa. And he's making these moans. And he starts doing that. And he starts sitting there, and he's like, and he starts hissing like a cat. And I'm like, whoa, what in the world is going on? And my heart's pounding because I gotta sleep next to this guy tonight. And he's going, and all of a sudden his hand starts shaking. And his hand starts shaking. And he's looking, and his hand's going like this, and he's going, and his hand starts doing that. And all of a sudden his hand balls up like this, and he grabs it with his other hand, and he's looking at his hand, and he's like, you N-words. And he uses the N-words. He constantly uses that, you N-words. And he's got his hand like this, and he's holding his back. He's like, oh, you mother effing Negroes. He said, y'all better vacate the premises. And I'm like, what in the world is going on right now? I didn't know I was going to come to jail and prison and get involved with this type of stuff. He got his hand, and his hand's shaking, and his hand's kind of moving like that. You ever seen on the alien movies how to when they got the little baby aliens, they kind of move around like that? That's what his hand's doing. It's like a live thing. And he starts saying, this mother effer, talking about his own hand, he said he got a mind of his own. And his hand starts, he's like, I can't control him. I tried to talk to this mother effer. And so he got his hands, and his hands moving back and forth like the xenomorph baby I told you about. And all of a sudden, he said, I can't control it much longer. And his hand loosens the grip, and then this fist, which is another entity, a xenomorph, you think it's like a face hugger, it's going to grab him and get on there, but it doesn't do that because it ain't stupid enough to mess with Big Ugly. And he just starts punching himself. His hand hits his own nose, and he goes, boom, 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 boom. And he's literally punching himself with full force. His face is moving, his hand is pounded. You can feel the earth trembling beneath you, and everybody who don't know him staring, scared, fearful. This ain't, man, look, Jason ain't got nothing on this dude. This dude's the real life thing. And you think, oh, please don't let him come after me. And so he's punching himself, man. How do you think I feel seeing this? And my man is just punching himself. Finally, he slows down, and he's still moaning the whole time. And that's why they call him Big Moan, because he always moaned a lot. That's the name. He's big, and he liked to moan. Big Moan. So they called him Big Moan. So now I find out why they call him Big Moan. He starts punching. Finally, he calms it down, and he starts petting his hand like this. He goes, and he starts going like this with his hand, like kind of like a cat rubbing. And he's petting his hand. He's like, calm down, little N-word, calm down, little N-word. And he's petting it. And all of a sudden, he said, I got him, y'all can calm down. And everybody's looking like, man, ain't no calming down in this dorm period no more. You done changed the whole dynamics of the dormitory. Now, keep in mind, there's a lot of dudes from New Orleans, and if you from New Orleans, or you've been to LTI, which is a juvenile detention center, I'm sure Big Moan was up there, you know him too. So he's like I said, he's a legend. So he starts petting his hand, then all of a sudden I see him, he starts licking his hand and cleaning his face like a cat. Lick, clean, lick, clean, lick, clean, moaning the whole time. Like he's comforting himself, you know what I mean? Like a cat. And he starts calming down. All right, fast forward. The day goes on. Things calm down. He starts talking to his rounds, people from New Orleans that know him. I done made peace with myself in knowing that I got to sleep next to this guy. Listen, I said my prayers. I said, God, protect me, and hopefully, this guy's, I'm going to be able to get by. Fast forward to the first weekend he's in prison. He oversleeps and nobody woke him up. Nobody thought to wake him up. Who thinks you got to wake anybody up, right? Well, people come back in the dormitory. He's getting up. He's groggy-eyed. He's got his toothbrush. He's just come back from brushing his teeth, kind of wiping his face with his, with his little face rag. And he's asking one of them dudes he knows. He says, "Say, bro, what they had for chow for breakfast?" And somebody said, "Man, they had cinnamon rolls." When they said they had cinnamon rolls, it's like the whole world just paused. You know what I mean? Like on a video game, when you hit pause, everything paused, kind of like everybody looked. Because as soon as the dude said cinnamon rolls, all of a sudden you heard Big Moan let out the biggest moan he had ever let out up into that morning. It was like painful. And all of a sudden he said, "You mother effing N-words made me miss cinnamon rolls." He said, "If I ever miss," he called them honey rolls. He said, "Mother, I was in Orleans Parish for 3 years. I ain't never seen no honey roll. I want fresh honey rolls." And so I'm like, dang, man, what happened now? And so come to find out, he had found out he missed honey rolls that in the prison Island Correctional Center, they had cinnamon rolls on Saturday mornings. He said if he ever missed honey rolls again, he was going to pick up the lockers in the dorm and start beating them against each other like two cymbals in a marching band, and everybody was going to pay the consequences. He said he don't care if he's sleeping. Somebody better wake him up on Saturdays. He better never miss a honey roll again. Well, guess what happened? Big Ugly ain't never missed no honey roll from that day forward. Another crazy thing I seen him do was one day, like I said, in the dormitories at Allen Correctional Center, every dorm is blocked off by a gate. And the gate is operated by a guard who works in a key in the center of the entire dormitory, a key that he can rove around and watch everything and work all the dorms with the electronic devices that are inside the key. Well, to get back into the dorm, you got to stand there and say cap, or say guard, say officer. You know what I mean? Can you rack it back? Rack it back means open up, let me in. Well, that's what everybody else said. This is the first time I ever seen him do this. He walked up to the gate and he wanted to get in the dorm, and there was other people too that were coming off a yard call. Now you got to get back in the dorm. Well, he's looking at the gate and somebody's like, "Say cap," and all of a sudden he looks at the guard who's inside the key and he starts barking like a ferocious dog. Spit's coming out his mouth, drool's coming out his mouth. He's barking, and it's loud. It's deafening to the ears. It definitely impacted the airwaves of the audio around us. You know what I mean? Everybody heard. The guard looks at him, and he's literally barking at the guard. The guard understood. He wanted the gate racked back and open. So the guard actually opens the gate, and when he opens the gate, he walks in. So after that moment forward, everybody knew that when Big Ugly wanted to get into the dormitory, he barked like a dog. When he barked like a dog, they opened it. No questions asked, and nobody wasn't going to tell him nothing. So let me tell you what else happens. All of a sudden, one day, he's in the dormitory, and he's talking, and he says he had just read a book or found out something about the Roman Empire, right? And he knew that the Romans had names like Spartacus and Atticus and Bruticus, you know what I mean? And so all of a sudden he came up with this bright idea. He said, "All right, you mother effing N-words." He said, "My name ain't Big Ugly, just Big Ugly or Big Moan. You gonna start calling me Ugamus." He had created a Roman name for himself. Instead of Ugly, it was Ugamus, Big Ugamus. He said, "Now refer to me as the Big Ugamus." And he walked up in the dormitory. It was like he was an emperor walking into the dorm, and dudes were like, "What's up, Ugamus? What's up, Big Ugamus? What's up, Ugamus?" You basically, whatever this dude said to do, that's what you was going to do. You know what I mean? So now I have to, adjust and live my life next to him as his bunkmate, which I eventually did. I began playing Scrabble with him. He was one of the coolest dudes I ever met. He probably don't remember me because he's probably still locked up. He had, like, at the time, he had an armed robbery charge. And if you knew what he was in prison for, the armed robbery, he had 2 brothers who were twins. He used to talk about his brothers all the time. He said, I'm my mama's favorite. Mother effers, I'm my mama's favorite. Not them 2 twin brothers I got. They nerds, they weak, they cowards. I'm like, dang, man, dude, whatever you say, bro, I understand. So he used to say that about his brothers. And if I told you why he was in prison, you might just fall down and faint, because the dude was in prison for the most craziest thing you ever heard of. And we'll talk about that story at another time. I'll tell you why Big Ugamus, a.k.a. Big Ugly, a.k.a. Big Moan, was actually in prison. I don't know what happened to him today. Every once in a while, I ask somebody about him that I seen. I've talked to people randomly on the street who was in Orleans Parish with him, and they like, I know who Big Ugly is. I'm familiar with Big Ugly. So, like I said, I bet you Lil Wayne knows Big Ugly. Shoot, I'm surprised he ain't got him in one of his rap songs, because he's from Holly Grove too. And look, he's about his business. That's the story of Big Ugly. And let me tell you something. I survived being next to him. He wound up being one of the coolest dudes there was. I used to draw and make cards, and I used to make him, birthday cards to send to his mom. Or I remember he used to be writing different girls. He used to like white girls. He said, I got this little white chick that I'm writing. Say, bro, you can make me a card? And I'm like, yeah, I got you. He's like, what you want for it? And look, this dude was the type of dude, he could take what he wanted, but he had principles and core beliefs. So if he told you he was going to pay you $10 for the card, guess what? His word was bond. He was going to pay you $10. He didn't even have a lock on his locker. I only met probably about my entire time doing prison, maybe six people who didn't put locks on their lockers. He was one of them. The guards tried to give him a lock when he got to the prison. He said, what that's for? It's like, so you could lock your lock. You don't want nobody. He said, I don't know what that is. I don't need that. He ain't never actually, they had other weaker dudes in there. They call it paying draft. If they paid Big Moan draft, they didn't have to put locks on their lockers, because everybody knew, man, you ain't gonna steal from him, man. He paying Big Moan. You know what I mean? You wasn't gonna mess Big Moan hustle up. So all you had to do was pay Big Moan money, and you was underneath his wing, and wasn't nobody gonna break in your locker. That's kind of power he had. This was the type of dude who could have done prison time in a Siberian prison, and he would have been okay, because he would have ate Russians. Man, give me a like and subscribe to the Pen and the Shank. And you've liked this content, go check out all my other videos. I got a whole library of stuff. Let's blow this channel up. Come on, let's get it.